You're gonna have to stand there like that whole.
Yeah, that's all right. That's not a problem.
3 minutes.
We can help you get on the bed, Graham.
I'm fine.
If you ask Sharon, she'll tell you how she manages it, and she's shorter than you.
Right. Right, Sean, I need a clap. Oh no, I want one of them big ones, like the big hand clapper ones.
Oh, missed.
What does that make?
That's the start. It's filming now.
Right, we're going to have to do that clap again now because Ian's asked a fucking stupid question. We've got to get it all synced up. So, right, big clap, Sean. Right,
a fucking
right, we're gonna do another big clap again, and when we do another big clap again, Ian kicks us off with some sort of intro. And,
oh right, we didn't say we were starting, did we? You just said we're doing a big clap.
Alright, okay. Right, so big clap.
Right, so I've got to get started. So, here we are in your van, which you've very romantically called Ruby.
Yep.
Obviously it's red on the outside, so self-explanatory.
Yep.
What made you decide to get this particular model of camper van?
What attracted us initially was the colour. And it literally was. Yep, Sharon loves red cars. Okay. And we saw there's not many red campers at all. In fact, apart from post office vans in the UK and fire engine vans in France, you don't see many red vans. And we saw that it was relatively local. It was only at Waltham Abbey. So we phoned up, went and had a look, and looked at all the interior and decided, yep, we'll have it.
Did you have a specific spec in mind? Engine size, economy?
I knew enough about them to know that this one was okay. So this is almost the entry-level power. There are lower powered ones, but there's also a lot of higher powered ones. But it was good enough. I gave it a drive, and it pulled better than my old VW. So I was quite happy with it.
And what was the power of the VW you had?
102, roughly.
Yeah, and this is
130.
130. Engine size?
2.3.
So we go through the boring things.
Yeah.
Length of the van.
6.36. Hence it's called a 640.
Oh, okay, right, so yeah. Width.
Bit bigger than the wing mirrors. It's wide. It's over 2 metres, but I don't know. I do that as I'm driving.
Probably quite an important thing. Height.
Yes, it is. I work on 2.9, but it's not. It's lower than 2.9.
So actually, there's probably no public car parks you can get in.
If they've got height restrictions, then
no.
They all sort of stop at 2 or 2.2 and 2.1.
Okay, so now let's move on to how long you've had it.
Nearly 18 months.
And what journeys have you made in it so far? I know they're quite extensive.
Well, first one was the best one. That was bringing it back from Waltham Abbey on a rush hour night. So we brought it back on the Monday evening in rush hour. So I got home about 6 o'clock. That was on the Monday evening, and at 6 a.m. on the Tuesday, we set off for 6 weeks in Spain, going Portsmouth to Bilbao.
What made you decide to take that long ferry trip rather than...
We'd booked it a year before for the VW.
Okay. Right,
so it was already booked. We'd just come back from 3 weeks in Scotland, and then we had a 3-week gap before we went to Spain, and in that 3-week gap we saw this, bought this, and then changed the ferry booking, and off we went. Just 2,000 miles around Spain.
I'm assuming, because I know Spain quite well, travelling around Spain by camper van must be just an absolutely completely different experience than any other way of visiting Spain.
Yep. So, and also it's the parts of Spain you see. We, like you, we know the costas quite well. We know Barcelona and the coast up there quite well. And it's all relatively the same. You get nice spots, you get run-down spots.
Where all the British are.
Well, the British are. But it's all relatively similar. And when you go inland, the north is just green and mountainous. The centre parts are high and flat. It is so different. You can see why they filmed some of the old westerns.
Spaghetti movies.
Yeah, because you're driving through what looks like a desert, but it's not a desert. It's just lovely. I loved it.
What was the actual experience of driving on Spanish roads like? Because I mean, they're not very busy, are they, compared with our roads?
No, and we were there in
Madrid.
We were there September, October 20. So COVID was quite bad. Madrid was a lockdown, a no-go zone. So the roads were relatively
quiet anyway.
Quiet. The only place, and it was the only place we encountered any form of traffic, was, you know it, the N7 near Malaga. So not far from the airport. It was quite busy there the time we drove through it, but the rest of the time we were on almost empty roads.
Well, the best part I know of Spain is obviously round Alicante, so I think that's the N332.
Yep.
If you have more than 4 cars in a row, it's considered a traffic jam.
Yep.
And the council are talking about doing something to cure it, so unlike here.
Yeah.
So I always think it's very stressless driving in Spain.
Yeah, there were lorries, HGVs. There was more HGVs than there were private cars on the road. And the campsites, we stayed campsites exclusively. Apart from 2 festival weekends, local festivals, we would have been one of 4 or 5 units on a campsite of 100, 150 people.
So in actual
empty.
fact, being COVID times, was for your first time to go abroad in this fairly relatively large camper van, was a bit of a godsend, wasn't it?
Yep,
really?
we had our own, effectively we had our own toilet blocks. Our own swimming pools.
Yeah.
So there was no risk of COVID infection.
No.
It was brilliant. And it did give me a lot of chance. I mean, pulling up the first time in a busy campsite and getting into a small space, I would have felt a bit pressured.
Yeah, I think it would have scared the life out of me.
But we were able to drive around and pick whatever pitch we wanted. We would pull up and then go and tell them and say we're in so-and-so pitch, and it was easy, no pressure.
Is this how much larger can you get before you need to have an HG?
It all gets quite complex.
Is it over 7.5 tonne or?
I think 7.5 tonne is one of the limits on our licences, because when we passed our tests, we can drive most things.
Okay.
People that passed more recently, there's a
Horse and cart?
That's on my licence. But over 3.5 tonnes becomes a restrictor for younger people with with more recent driving tests. But it also over 70s, I think you have to have a retest for over 3.5. Huh?
I'm close then.
You're nearly there. You are nearly there. So it is. Yeah, it is quite complex. I won't worry about it until I'm your age, and I'm not going bigger than this.
So, what other journeys have you done?
We're lucky. We can keep it at home on a driveway. I don't know if the neighbours consider it lucky, but we consider it lucky. So we take her out fairly regularly just to keep her moving and running. If we've got a lengthy journey to do, if we're going to Yorkshire, for example, or the West Country, we'll go in this over going in a car. Not least after 2 hours, we both need a wee, so we can we can just pull over in a lay-by and have a wee. But the other holidays we've done a few in the UK. We did 5 weeks France. September, October 21, and in 8 weeks, 2 days, we were off to Portugal for 7 weeks.
Lovely.
Through the summer.
Nice. That'd be brilliant. That one.
COVID allowing.
COVID allowing, which looks all right. I think you'll be fine.
Oh yeah, we will.
Which shall we now move on to? Which would be a bit awkward. You just have to explain what facilities.
Okay.
Were in here when you bought the van and what you've added to it.
So, in terms of the basics, literally starting at the front, you've got the 2 driver and passenger seats, are swivelling seats, and they've got the armrests. So, even though we have to stop every 2 hours for a wee, we've been in the van for a 10-hour day of driving, just stopping every now and then, not even really getting out, and you don't get tired and you don't ache, because they're big comfy seats. You've got 2 other seat belted passenger seats there, relatively narrow, So ideal for 2 kids.
Yeah, yeah.
But what we can use it for is we've got a bit of a locking dog harness that goes in there. Put a dog bed on there, and then the dog can sit on there. The table slides backwards and forwards and will drop. When it drops, you can make this into a single bed.
Okay.
But it would be a sort of Graham's height only. He wouldn't be a normal sized man. It would be a short person.
I don't know why I'm laughing. Because me and Graham could both.
You could probably both get on there and treat it as a double. Underneath there, you've got the boiler, which can run electric, gas, or a combination, and that will do hot water for the sink and the bathroom. It's not hardly a bathroom. There's not really a bath in there. I don't want to make it sound too posh. And it's got blown air heating. So if you're on electrical hookup, so literally plugged into electricity on a site or at home, you can run everything electric. If you're not, the fan and the pump for the water runs off of the batteries.
Okay.
And then the heating is done by gas. So in the back there's 2 11 kilo gas bottles. We've had them and done probably 15 weeks in the van, and we've half used one of them, because when we hook up, we've got different electrical heating
that you would use
yeah.
rather than use the gas.
Yeah, so we do use the gas, but we tend not to use it for heating because we're going to go away when it's nice and warm.
And obviously, if you're hooking up, that's all in. Is electricity all in? No,
nearly
all
always
included in the campsite.
Nearly always in the pitch fee.
Yeah.
So some pitches in the sites you don't have electricity, some you do. We went to one site in Spain. It's the only one we've been on where you pay per electric usage,
right, okay.
But it was relatively inexpensive. So keep moving that way. We've then got electrical step, which Sharon needs. She can't, it's too high for her, we have to have the step out for that. All 12 volt lighting, so that runs off of the leisure batteries. When you say about what have we added, so under the driver's seat here we've got one leisure battery, which is standard. We added a second leisure battery, and
is that under the seat as well?
Yes, under the seat. Yeah, it fits in there. Okay. It's really tight. And then we've had a 155 watt solar panel put on the roof. That will charge both leisure batteries and the engine battery. This time of year in the UK, it just about keeps things topped up. But we've been it's called off-grid, we're just not on electrical hookup, and it will run the fridge and the lighting.
So basically, if you pitch somewhere with no hookup, you're quite satisfied that solar, if you had a decent day, that solar panel is going to last you.
It keeps us running.
Until you move on.
Yeah, it will keep going. It will give us at least a good couple of days. When you drive, the alternator charges initially the drive battery, and then it will do the leisure batteries. So we've got gas hobs, no oven. We don't want an oven, we don't need an oven. Sharon absolutely loves the fact we've got the 3 drawers, because it's really good. No, don't have a microwave. What we have is called a Remoska, and it's an electric, looks like a small pressure cooker, but it's an electric pot that you can roast things in.
Sounds like my type of cooking there.
It's easy. It's a one-pot meal. You put everything in, put the top on, jacket potatoes or anything. It's really good. But again, needs hookup. Sink with hot water. Lots of cupboards, storage space up here. More storage there, including the wardrobe, which I put my dinner's jacket in there when we go away, and things like that.
Every camper van needs.
Then there's the toilet, sink, and it's also a shower room. We've never used the shower, but you could. High-sided, slab-sided vehicle, you might feel a bit of wind shake. There's a window in the bathroom, and the shower hose can go outside. So you can rinse things off, or you can have a cool-down shower outside if you so want. And then we've taken to leaving the bed set up, and it is a Super King bed. So it's effectively 6'6" by nearly 6'6".
So it can actually fold away.
So mattresses slide off to the right, fold over to the right, fold over to the left, and then there's a wooden section there which leans up, and you can walk straight through the back of the van. There's all storage here, and what we have when we go away is we have, effectively that's like a garage. You can get to it through here or from the back, and we have 2 folding bikes, 2 outside tables, 2 chairs, and then 2 loungers. And that all fits in there really nicely. We've got bungee points. I bungee it down, it stops it moving around and rattling and squeaking.
Any under storage? Under van storage?
No. Some of the tanks are underneath. One thing I added, because remarkably the money that people spend on these, they do not come with a spare wheel. So I've added a spare wheel.
Well, that's the way to go everywhere though, isn't it? What do you get?
It is. It's got the.
Can of foam.
It's got foam, but what tends to happen with these is you get a blowout. If you get a blowout, foam's of no use. They're proper camper tyres.
We can bright up as a signal.
You set fire to it and then leave it. But it is absolutely, for me, it's absolutely essential to have that spare,
yes,
because
definitely.
Trying to get the right tyre when you're in the middle of Spain, even if in England,
it's just a stress you don't want, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
I haven't got a jack, I haven't got a wheel brace,
that does
because
pose a bit of a problem.
Yeah, but I've got European recovery.
Right. Okay.
So I wouldn't even want to jack this up and do it myself. Cars, no problem. This, I'll get someone to come out and do it. I don't think I'll be able to undo the wheel nuts now. So, yeah, lots of roof lights. The back around the bed, we've got windows on each side. So when we've been in Spain and the bed is at the level of the window, you've got insect mesh that pulls down.
Okay, yeah.
We were having the windows wide open, the insect mesh down, the roof vent open, and it was very similar to sleeping outside. And when it was 30 degrees,
It was bearable though.
oh, it was lovely, because you had a breeze coming through. We've had a couple of nights when it's been really hot, but never as bad as a really hot night in Southend, which is a rarity.
No, I suppose you haven't been going. Obviously, you wouldn't go August or July, would you?
No.
Somewhere like Spain.
Valencia was the hottest during the day. We were in Valencia and it was 41, and then it was still just about 30 at night. But it was certainly bearable.
What things have you got in mind to add? Is there anything else you'd like?
Yeah, I'd like a nice doubled-in stereo in there, like Android Auto, and then I could use the phone for sat-nav. I've got a TomTom, and I really like the TomTom because it's got world maps on it, all updating. But I do the route planning in my phone, and the phone I'm able to put in on TomTom on my phone. I'm able to put in the dimensions of the vehicle.
Ah, okay, right, I see. Yeah.
And then you send it to the TomTom. So the actual TomTom unit, you can't put the dimensions in, but on the phone you can. And some of the...
Funny enough, I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah.
You need to, don't you, obviously?
You don't want to be going where you can't get under a bridge or something. No. And also it excludes really narrow lanes. Still takes you down some squeaky bum lanes, but they're not too bad. But the...
Does that mean you wouldn't be able to go anywhere in Cornwall?
You'd have to be quite bullish, yeah. But if you look at this is a DPD van. The DPD driver drives the same van as this, and they're
got to go everywhere.
They're driving around Westcliff and they don't have any problem whatsoever. So it's some of it's a mindset, some of it's an ability thing, and the more I drive it, the better.
Yeah.
The better I
do.
go.
You wouldn't want to go on your first trip and encounter narrow country lanes everywhere, would you?
No, you'd end up with an awful lot of scrapes down the side from bushes and things like that. And as you can see, you can feel with the wind. So the worst thing, I think I mentioned it to you in the week, the worst experience we've had driving was to do with being hit heavily by some wind in the Costas. Went over the bridge in between a valley, and just this gust came and took us across one lane, and we were doing about 60, and it really was scary.
So what are the restrictions speed-wise on these? Is there? Or are they just the same as national rules?
Because it's under 3.5 in Spain and in France, it's the same as the normal speed limit. It's not got any additional speed restrictions on it. Other countries, I'm not sure. No. UK, it's
the same.
It's the same. Yeah. Because it's 5 kilos under 3.5k. What I noticed in France was there's a lot of 3.5k restriction roads, more than there is here. And I think that's because French cars traditionally have been built out of tin foil, and they're a lot lighter, so they built the roads a lot lighter.
Yeah.
That's my professional opinion.
I think you're probably right. I think there's probably less decent roads in. As much as we moan about our roads, we've got a lot of roads, haven't we?
Yeah. And the French roads weren't better or worse than ours.
No,
but the Spanish roads.
So they pile more money into their motorways. I mean, Spanish motorways.
Spanish are unbelievable.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Smooth. In Spain, the road is either almost perfect or it's fallen down the mountain.
Yeah.
There's no really. You don't get potholes.
You know what I really liked about Spain? When you're driving the motorway, you haven't got to go 28 miles for a fucking service station that rips the fucking arse out of you. Because in Spain, you've got one every couple of miles, isn't you? You just pull off the road.
And the fuel's not a rip-off price either, is it? No. And the food's nice and cheap as well.
Just what you pay anywhere else in Spain.
Yeah. Well, we stopped near the Portuguese border. We were in the middle of Spain, almost level with Madrid, on this motorway that just went on for hours, in the middle of nowhere, and there was this massive service station that looked like it was made for HGVs, and we stopped there. Fuel was reasonably priced, and we had a couple of coffees and pastries, and it was the same price as if you bought it in a village.
Yeah, we noticed that.
If you'd bought that in a UK service station, it would have been 3 times the price.
Because we drove down once from, we was in near Alicante. And we drove from Alicante to Gibraltar. We stopped over in Sota Grande, which is not far from Malaga, in a little smart car. And
as opposed to a big smart car.
Well, yes, and it pissed down with rain the whole time. So that's a juxtaposition, isn't it? Me driving that and you driving this van.
Yeah, I know what I'd rather be driving.
Because this would have seemed huge, wouldn't it, to us?
Yeah. Well, it could have fitted in the back probably.
Well, shit, laugh out of Nicola a couple of times. But no, hey ho.
But the hills, they used to take me by surprise in this. Because I'd suddenly realised the speed was dropping. And what it is you've been going uphill for 2 miles, not much, and it might be a headwind, and you have to drop a gear or sometimes drop 2 gears to get up some of the hills.
I think we're quite lucky because I think Spain's roads have improved a hell of a lot over the last 20 years because of EU money.
Yeah.
So they've spent a huge amount of money, and also on their train infrastructure has completely changed.
The difficult thing initially about the toll booths is it's on Sharon's side, and you have. If you go into a self-service one, I always try and find one with a person in it. But if you can't, and they're self-service, you've got 2 hoppers. You've got a car hopper, and you've got an HGV hopper.
Oh, right.
And we're in the middle.
Did they used to have they got on theirs? On our ones? Not many places
might have
cash in there anyway.
Yeah, I can't think about the Dartford Tunnel. I can't think.
We probably wouldn't even been in our... Wouldn't even thought about it.
Wouldn't think about it. But we were in the middle. So Sharon, and where we're trying to pay with card or something like that, there's a card reader down there and there's a card reader like that. And Sharon's only little and she's hanging out the window. And I'm really patient about that sort of thing and really calm, and I don't shout or swear or, for fuck's sake, get a move on, wheel up. I don't do any of that, obviously. No, that's fine, Sharon, just take time. It's not me, I haven't positioned wrong, it's you. So that's a bit of an eye-opener for us. So I now, as I'm approaching a toll, I'm looking, please be one with a picture of a man, and then at least Sharon can...
Yeah, but what's Sharon like though? Is Sharon ready for it?
I make sure...
I can imagine we get there and then she...
No, I'm doing about 10 mile an hour for the last half mile up to the toll booth so she can get the money out. I'll make sure we're ready for it. It's the most stressful bit, but it shouldn't be. It should be easy.
Are there things that are more frustrating driving this van? obviously when we came up here, we were talking about the new laws with cyclists, and we was ranting a bit.
What's frustrating is people. I think people don't appreciate it's a bigger van, but it won't be particular to this. It's to any van. So I might be reversing off the driveway, and a pedestrian will just carry on walking, and you haven't got as good visibility as you have on a car. People won't automatically let you out. Driving this gives you a much better understanding of what people are doing when they're driving HGVs. Yeah. I keep telling myself when I'm driving this is nothing. It is absolutely nothing. You look at where people are driving HGVs. We came down one particular mountain in Spain, and it was a 120 limit, and I was doing 120 on the brakes, probably in fourth gear, trying to keep the revs, slowing it down. And there were about 3 HGVs lined up behind me, and I was thinking, oh my God, I think I'm doing well to come down this, and these bloody HG, if they could have overtaken me, they would have overtaken me. It just gives you a completely different insight into how some people can drive, and they manoeuvre them.
I think they're incredible. I mean, I worked on industrial parks.
Yeah.
And I think, how the bloody hell is that going to get down there?
I know. And they reverse down it, don't they? I know. So, it shouldn't frustrate me, but the fact that people don't appreciate the extra challenge of driving it, and this is a small extra challenge, that's a little bit frustrating. What else? The wind, you do notice, and you get battered.
And also, so what's it like for those HGV drivers, especially those really high sided?
I know.
That must be a nightmare.
Well, if you're single lane, say like a 50 or a 60, and I go past an HGV, the battering you take, because it's just a slab sided, it pushes you. You get used to it and you get ready for it, but if you have that on a narrow stretch of road, like you think, here it comes, and you just have to get ready for it. Other things that frustrate, the ride is very firm, so the tyres run, they can run up to nearly 80 psi, but I've had it weighed. I've been to Continental, the tyre manufacturer, and I now run 55 and 60 when you consider a car would run 30. So if you're going over something like rumble strips, bloody hell. So packing it to make sure there's minimal rattles and things like that, that's important.
Is that something you knew before from the previous, or? The
other van had was running,
because I can imagine
high 40s.
I can imagine there's a lot of accidents with that sort of thing. Not securing things down properly.
Oh yeah. So the worst thing we do it now automatically, but the drawers and doors all shut, but they have a push button lock on them. And I've gone round the corner here, and the drawers have opened. Of course, it's never my fault. It's always Sharon's fault, and I'm concentrating on driving. But we've had cupboards open, drawers open. We haven't done it, but you can drive off with these open, or the windows open, the vents and the windows, and get to 40-50 mile an hour and they get ripped off. They're only plastic, so you do get issues with that. You get people that drive off still hooked in with the electric.
I've done that before, so yeah.
That's quite heavy power. So you get used to it, and we do the little look arounds, and we stop. Normally, when you're on a campsite, you drive to the exit of the campsite. So that little drive, you stop again then to either get the barrier to get out or to pay as you're leaving. Then you have another look round and just make sure. But no, not a lot of things. Every time I get in it, it's like a little adventure. Even I took it for the MOT on Wednesday. It's like an adventure, just getting in it and driving it. For some people, they drive their DPD van 10 hours a day.
What about the thought of cleaning it? I can't even clean a small car. Do you take it to the car wash?
No.
Can you take it to the car wash?
You could. I haven't seen many in the UK. France and Spain, You know, we have the Karsha stations here.
Yeah.
There's one down Sutton Road.